a black sort of thing over your name, and then we'll just go from there. So, Ali, first question that you were asked.
Right. Okay, so the question was that during hinge movements, so RDL, bent over row, etc., the person is getting a lot of pain in the lower back, and they have also said that perhaps because they have an anterior pelvic tilt. So I'm probably quite a good person to answer this because I have got an anterior pelvic tilt, and up until about January, my lower back struggled to recover from anything, as Vaughn will tell you, because he used to do my programming. The honest answer is, I think it tends not to be weaknesses in areas. It tends to be executions a bit off. So break down the movement, look like video, assess it. If you've got a coach, get them to do it. But what myself and Vaughn have both found that really has improved our execution and contraction is we do paused RDLs. So you pause in the lengthened position, and what that'll do is that'll teach you to get your hips back. But what happens a lot is in an RDL movement, all you're thinking about is your bum going as far back as possible in theory. But a lot of people think about going forward as much as they can. And that's when they tend to get a little bit through your lumbar. You have to also remember, though, in a heavy RDL, you are going to get a little bit of lower back loading. Vaughn's also got an execution video on YouTube about this, by the way.
I mean, in regards to like an RDL, now we've got like the queen of RDLs on here, Chloe Pickford, right? If you've ever seen her RDL, her hair's going back and forth when she's done it. Now, I think what the pause does is that it allows a massive internal focus of contraction, right? So how often do you do an RDL and you just say, fuck, my lower back hurts, my lower back hurts, my lower back hurts, all the time. But what people don't tend to do is they don't actually have some sort of like internal voice of recruitment in their hamstrings on the way down. So Ali's totally right. Push your bum back. But I always use a cue that is, imagine someone is stabbing like a knife, like a dagger in the back of your hammies, and your hamstring's just like a brick wall. And if you have that internal voice, when you get to that bottom range, you have to then shift that focus to like someone shoving a thumb up their butt. Right? That's how aggressively you got to squeeze your arse. Now, in that bottom range, if you have this slight pause, yes, the lumbar, like the musculature in the lumbar, is going to have to do more to stabilize. But whoever said that's a bad thing? Mm-hmm. Right? No one at all. But the thing is, 99% of the population have a sore lower back. Why? Because their glutes are fucking shit. Right? But if you have this slight pause in the bottom, you have a massive internal sort of cueing. If you listen to the podcast I did with the hypertrophy coach, we spoke about feel quite a lot. So you could then start initiating with your glutes more, so that when you perhaps go from an RDL, your next move might be a hip thruster, the activation of your glutes goes from here to up there. Mm-hmm. Everything tends to benefit. So how we program usually, or not how we all do it, but what I've suggested I do and what Ali does is we'll do like a paused RDL on the first set, on the top set. After you do one heavy set of a pause, your lower back's kind of fried, right? So the second top set or the third one, just do it continuous.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's as simple as that.
I was also going to add there. Oh, sorry.
On you go.
No, I was just going to add that a lot of the times it's kind of remembering that it's okay to drop the weight on the bar to reconnect with the move, slow it down like you were saying, like with a pause, and then gradually build it up. So if you start to feel that, you know, you've tried to just max out, all you're looking at really is your logbook, and you're just going in with a mindset of, I need to progress, and you then start prioritizing the weight on the bar over the actual execution of the move. There's absolutely no pain in stripping the bar and putting way less weight on it and starting from there. Like I know at the end of my prep last year, we took our RDLs completely because my lower back wasn't recovering. And I was doing, as a top set, 90 kilos. And when I restarted them after prep, I had to drop it all the way down to like 65, 70 to restart building the move, because otherwise my back was just going to get fucked straight away. So I suppose it's also, you know, slowing the movement down, focusing on different cues, but also being okay with stripping the bar to re-engage the move, because then ultimately once you add all the weight back onto the bar, you're going to be so much stronger, and the connection and the contraction is just going to be, you know, mind-blowing in comparison. So 90 kilos executed when you're doing it properly will feel so much better than it did when, you know, when it's all in your lower back essentially.
That
Yeah,
is
exactly.
an example that I was doing 230, 240 last year, and then it just stopped moving. And then I had to drop it to, I started doing pauses at 180, and then now back up to 215. And it's like you said,
night and day.
The difference, right? I'm going to just move us on so we don't spend too much on one question. So I'll take my next question, which was, I think this was you, Chloe, asking about Gen Pop and female clients in particular. Now, you asked that they're training 3 times a week. What split would I recommend? Personally, full body, all day, every day, but I'd put a fuckload of legs in there, right? Because let's face it, if they're Gen Pop, what are they interested in? Fat loss, right? So you want to get the most bang for your buck, and their recovery capabilities, especially if they're female, they could do probably 3 full leg days, no problem. If you're smart with volume and you split it up, and let's face it, Gen Pop clients don't train as hard as you or me or us or whoever's in this chat. So I would often just favour big ass movements. Would I put in any arms at all? No, none. Not unless they had really specific goals of, I've got these bingo wings, and you just put it in there so that it's like they have some sort of sense in their head of, oh wow, like my program's being personalised to me, and yeah, I'm getting rid of my bingo wings, when you're not really, right? Because you're just putting them in there to keep it from what's saying. But I would always just focus on the big moves in particular. If depending on their level, like if they're a beginner, everything on a machine, everything, right? Smith machine. If you've not got like a pendulum, a hack, a leg press or whatever, everything on the Smith. But I wouldn't move them to a barbell squat really unless it suited their mechanics. And I would wait, even if it did suit their mechanics, I'd wait 6 to 9 months. If they were a beginner, just get them really fucking strong on the likes of a Smith or a leg press, a pendulum, because how that will translate is, let's say they come to you and they've never lifted a weight, and you put them on a barbell squat and they go squat down and they're like unstable, they're all over the shop and whatnot. Their confidence is right here. But if they come in and they do like hack squat with you, okay, they feel it like the machine's a bit of a monstrosity, but you do a set with them, they work really hard, you go hands on, you get their quads on, you get them firing, and they go, whoa, that's the hardest I've ever worked. That's amazing. And then it again correlates that not only are you helping them like get more stability, but you're also building their confidence because you're putting them on something that they feel secure and safe on. And then if you're there the whole time, chatting and speaking to them, I don't know if these are your clients or this is just online clients or whatever. I know that you're online and you do classes, right? But
Is that me? Sorry, Vaughan.
That's for you, Chloe, yeah.
I didn't ask that question.
It's not.
No, I asked about dieting.
Damn, okay.
I was thinking to myself. I didn't ask that.
We could go to the next question then.
Whoever asked that, a fucking wicked response.
To be fair, who was that?
Ryan asked it.
All right. So the other thing I would always say, so my client Sam asked me this the other day as well. Remember with Gen Pop, when you're just starting out, you're trying to get as much bang for your buck with as little work as you can, because at the start you want to build their capacity up. So if you fly in with like loads of exercises and loads of everything, it makes it quite difficult. Whereas like me and Vaughn spoke about this before, where you might have for a female, if they're training Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, you might have 3 Smith squats in there. You probably wouldn't, but because they're not going to know where failure is, they're still getting used to all that. It's about programming really smart. So I think people always want to jump to really advanced stuff. Like I train like this. So this client who's never been in the gym before should do it. If you get them to nail the basics, they're always going to progress better. Whereas if you're doing really technical stuff and they have no idea what's going on, you're going to spend 4 months doing that. So that's a big one.
Right. Next question, just because we've got a lot to get through. Clara?
So I've got a question here. asking about focus during workout. So some people feel like they only kind of get into their workout maybe a couple of sets in, or a couple of exercises in. Now, I suppose this kind of relates a bit more, not directly to training, but also sort of into mindset. And what I would say is that your workout doesn't really start when you start the workout. It's sort of the lead up and the build up to it. So whenever you're sitting down to have your pre-workout meal, or you're getting ready to get into the gym, like that's when you start the hype up process in your head. If you're going in ready to attack a workout, don't expect to just go under the bar and be like super fully focused into it. Like it takes a little bit of time for your body to warm up into it, in the same way you do a couple of sets until you get to your heaviest weight load. So what I'd recommend is always hyping yourself up a little bit before. So in the minute that you're having your pre-workout meal, if you can do that with music, if you can watch a video, I know everyone loves watching Trained by GP videos before training, that type of stuff, anything that gets you really riled up kind of in the process of getting to the gym, that's going to make a massive difference. And then obviously using your first few warm-up sets to get into the rhythm and flow of it. If you do find that you're struggling with focus during a workout, put your phone on airplane mode, like take away the distractions. People lose focus and waste so much time scrolling through Instagram while they're training. So the more, if you feel like your focus is going, phone goes on airplane mode. And I suppose that would apply more like, say, if you're dieting and if training is already getting a bit harder, that's when it becomes so much more important to just be laser focused. And then other obvious stuff, things like caffeine, a pre-workout, that's going to just add to it. But if you're not wanting to use anything like that, remember that the workout doesn't start when you step in the gym. It starts like at least an hour to 30 minutes beforehand. I don't know if you guys can add anything to it.
Well, not really. You don't need to go too much into that. My answer would be probably a little bit more, I wouldn't say harsh, but my thing would be like, what's your why? Like, so me and Vaughn train together for the most part, and like, I've never seen any of us go into a set and it's not just you go and you get to work. We know what our logbook says. We're looking at it. That first set, like, you couldn't not be motivated, because I'm looking at my logbook and thinking I'm going to fucking beat that from last week. So it's about you having your why of why you're training and you going to do it. You might, if you feel like you are a bit hazy when you're starting, do added warm-up sets. Just don't push volume too much. But realistically, if you're aiming for big goals, you shouldn't really need motivation. You should just get in there and do it.
Heavy metal works also.
I did a podcast on how to stay motivated, and it was all about having a vision. And I'm like, I don't really give a shit if we're in lockdown, we're training in the garage, or we're training in a shed. Like, if you have a big goal of fucking stepping on stage, being British champ, or doing a photo shoot, or going on holiday, or changing your physique, like, it shouldn't matter that you're fucking locked down or whatnot, right? But I don't spend too much time on one question. Ali, you are next in the order we are going.
Yeah, sweet. So I quite like this question. I haven't wrote down who asked me it, but the question was the benefits of isometric holds, and would they still have a benefit when back in the gym? So I can answer that in a few ways, but obviously when we are bodybuilding, the majority of us in here train like bodybuilders. If you don't, I'm sorry. But when we are trying to build muscle, you're trying to work your muscle through the full contractile range. So that's what we aim for. So that's how you'll create stimulus. With an isometric, we are using them in home workouts because we don't have the load. So we need something to give us more stimulus. In the gym, it's going to be different, because unless it's something perhaps like your calves, maybe like a cuff pull down or biceps, the load's going to be too high for you to hold the isometric with enough quality. Because holding isometric, you're putting a hell of a lot of force into the muscle, so it's not really going to be as beneficial if you're trying to do it on, for example, a hack squat, because it's so heavy you can't do it. So that's why we're kind of using them both. There are benefits to it. Like, I've seen a lot of studies for like strength training, but I wouldn't say necessarily for hypertrophy. Do you want to jump in on that, Vaughn?
Now, why are we putting in isometric holds? More like probably a sensible question. And here's how you answer it, right? So again, in the podcast with Joe Bennett today, we spoke about mechanisms of hypertrophy in the most layman's term sense, that mechanical load's always going to be king, right? Now, we don't have that at home. We don't have all the plates. We don't have all the 20s, doing a 5-plate hack squat or whatnot. So what can we do? Well, one, we could pre-exhaust the muscle and build up some metabolites before we go into submaximal load, so that when we are producing force throughout that contractile range throughout the set, we get a fair amount of breakdown, and then thus get an adaptive response. Now, if we consider that you've got metabolic stress, mechanical tension, and mechanical load, all mechanisms of hypertrophy, adaptation, muscle change, however you want to call it. If you haven't got the load and you've only got a little bit, why not focus on the other two? So all we've done with our programming is we've just switched it. So one, there's a fuckload more of slower tempo, so we're getting more like fatigue across the set. Mm-hmm. But also, we want to build up some metabolites. Mm-hmm. You're probably thinking, what the fuck's a metabolite, right? So as we are exercising, as we're contracting a muscle, we're going to produce energy, but we're also going to produce some waste products. Now, studies will show that if we produce enough of those waste products in high quantities, what do we get? An adaptive response. And it's not, don't get me wrong, right? It's not as big and as powerful and as strong as mechanical load. The adaptation to it is quite small, but if it's the only thing we can focus on and get advantage from right now, we're going to do that. 100%, right? So what I said to everyone is, I said to all our clients and Ali and Claire said, we've got this novel stimulus that we've never really worked with before, right? Because when we're in the gym, we're going to favour mechanical load because we're going to change way more from that than we would do fucking doing a wall set holding a plate. And don't get me wrong, it's great right now because your body's adapting to it and you're sore and it's great and whatnot. But in the gym, why would we still do that? Because we wouldn't get much of an adaptation from it as we would do doing a big filthy drop set on the leg press.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like a muscle round or a rest pause or whatever. And sorry, that was kind of a bit of a rant. Clara, have you got anything to add before we move on?
Not really. Mic drop.
Chloe, I'm going to answer your question because I thought I did, but it was someone else. Now, you said, let's clarify. This is what you said. What would you, if someone's show was cancelled, what would I do if they wanted to compete later on in the year?
Yeah, so I've got I've got a few clients, but the ones that are competing, we're hoping that October shows potentially may
How far away were they from stage?
10 weeks.
Okay, cool. Right. Now, what I would do is I would assess how much weight you had to take off in those 10 weeks.
It was only 5 more kilos.
Right, cool. So not a bad position to be in. Now, you have to have this sort of with a lot of clients, the minute that they show got cancelled, I was on the phone straight away.
Yeah, no,
same.
Because they have this sense of loss. Oh my God, the world's end. Oh my God, I'm going to binge, and they get fat really quick. Okay. Now, we know that, Two Bros announced today, end of August, right? But there'll be other shows, September, October. So what you kind of got to say is I went, right, with one client we're 27 weeks out. Right, from Granite City, it's a show in Aberdeen that was moved from March. And I was like, what we're going to do is we've got 27 weeks. In the first 7, I said, we're just going to slowly increase your body weight by 1.5 to 2 kilos.
Yeah, that's what I said to her.
That way, we'll be 20 weeks out and we'll be 7.5 kilos away. Then we just have 2.5 kilos to take off in 10 weeks. In that time frame, what you'll do is you'll up food, you'll strip back cardio, you'll strip back steps, everything like that. They'll be feeling great. Their strength will be super high. The gyms will be open. They'll have this small window to add tissue. Well, okay, if they're female, they're not going to add loads, right? But they'll feel good. The logbook will be progressing. You'll be able to build their caloric ceiling up so that when you kind of get back down to 10 weeks out, their calories should be higher.
Yeah.
And their cardio should be, and this is a massive if they do what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Because right now, I guarantee the past 3 weeks, they just went, fuck it. Maybe for a week, they went, fuck it, I'm not competing ever again. And then you've spoke to them, you've hyped them up, and they went, oh yeah, but this and the next thing. So again, I say to someone, having more time is never a bad thing. Mm-hmm. People think it will, and if it's your first time dieting, it's the worst thing in the world ever. Because the first time you prep, it's horrible. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And then as you this year, prep's piss easy because you've done it before. It becomes a lifestyle. So again, it depends on the level of client. Was she a returning competitor?
I've got a few, but the one I was just referring to, she's a higher level. Then there was another one who was going to do a first-timer show.
Right.
PCA.
I mean, the higher level one, she'll be
Yeah,
fine.
it's easy.
Yeah, she's robotic. She's looking amazing. She's absolutely jacked as well.
The first one, here's how I played about with it, right? And I would say the one thing I'm good at is open people up. And what I tended to say was, I would say to them, I said, listen, in this time frame, everyone that you're going to compete against, the first timers, a lot of them have stepped back. Yeah. They've went, fuck it, I'm not training, but you know what you're going to do? You're going to do this program that I've came up with. This is what we're going to do with food. Because of this novel stimulus, metabolic stress, playing about with tempo, you're going to actually grow. You're going to make some adaptations. You're going to take a step ahead of the pack, and she'll start going, oh yeah, well, I'm ahead of pack. And then you say, and then the gym's open, we're going to switch you right back over to high mechanical loading. It'll be another new novel stimulus, and your physique will take another step forward. So really, in the next 12 weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to add a kilo of muscle. And she'll go, whoa, that's amazing. I didn't think that you could do that. Mm-hmm. And whether it happens or not, she'll still move forward, and she'll have in her mind, I'm working harder than everyone else I'm competing against, and I'm so grateful that I've got this equipment, I've got this opportunity, I've got this coach behind me, and fuck, we're going to take another big step forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
More psychological game than anything with the first timers, right?
100%.
I won't need to extend on that because it'll be a long answer, but yeah, the same.
Clara?
Couldn't agree more. It's exactly that. Just getting them on the right mindset, and getting them excited, because that's what's going to drive you forward in any prep. It's that constant motivation, I think.
Right,
I would say if it's someone like relatively freaking out about it, but they're still in a decent position, you could also push towards like a photo shoot.
That's what I said to one of them.
Yeah, I've got a client who's meant to be competing in June, so she's just going to do a shoot, and then we're going to reverse her out, and then she's just going to compete next year. But she's very cool with that, whereas a lot of people would freak out about it. So again, it's next question.
All right, your next question.
Yes. So the question was, should you always take sets to failure, or should you leave reps in reserve? Now, you're rubbing your hands. So definitely take it to failure. Why not? There's nothing to lose. You don't know how strong you are until you try and push past that barrier. And realistically, no one gives a shit if you're on the hack squat, if you're on the Smith machine, if you're on whatever machine, and your ass touches the ground and you cannot get yourself up because you'll be in a puddle of sweat, breathing out your ass, thinking that was fucking insane. That was great. So that's the kind of answer I'd go for. I'd always push, because you just don't know how strong you really are. You don't know where your limits are. And a lot of times your mind will give up way before your body does. And you can always squeeze more reps out. Now, I remember many times I've been training, a few weeks out with Vaughan, Fitch and whatnot, and I've had them screaming in my face. And I thought I was done, and I was not done until 15 reps later. So, and I wouldn't have known that if I'd kind of left reps in reserve. I would have maybe thought, I could have done 2 or 3 more. But no, the only time I'd ever leave reps in reserve is if you're doing a pump workout in, say, like your lead up to a show, or you're coming out of a prep and your body's fucked and you're deloading. But that would kind of be the only context. Otherwise, I'd always kind of go, balls to the wall, because that's the only really way that you're going to progress. Yeah. Especially with the gym, with all the weights, that's just the way to push yourself. So that kind of covers it from my end.
What I think also with that, so by the way, for anyone that doesn't know reps in reserve, so some people use training philosophy where it's programmed, so you might leave 2 reps in reserve, so you're not going to true failure. What I would say, especially for coaches out there, a lot of clients think they go to failure and don't. So programming reps in reserve for them, they're going to be 10 reps off failure rather than 2. So most people, the actual question, by the way, that I paraphrased that, there was another bit in it, but the easiest way to do it is also remember with failure, it's not, you'll see this in the gym every day. So someone's doing a rack pull and their last 3 reps, their back's like this. It's mechanical failure. It's when that muscle you're trying to stimulate can't contract anymore. So you will know when that failure is there. So you should always be taking yourself to there, because as Clara said, there's no guesswork. You're only working as hard as you can.
The thing is, if I could just add to that, right? Now, we all train pretty damn hard, at least I hope we do. And we all have a vision and motivation to get to where we want to be. If you're a coach, like, you'll probably work with clients that don't really like training, right? But they're adults and they understand it's good for them, so they're going to do it, right? So they're never really going to go to failure. Why? Because they just shite bags, right? And for a better word, right? But in regards to, like, is there a benefit to reps in reserve? Okay, you'll get one camp that'll say, yeah, there's all these fucking studies and blah, blah, blah. And you get another camp that says, well, I train to failure every fucking set and I've gained 50 pounds, 60 pounds of muscle in 5 years, right? I think that if you, like, are solely in one camp and not the other, you're missing out on either one, right?
Yeah.
Because I will program in reps, I won't program it in, but in the lead up to a show, I was doing 1 RIR, right? 3 weeks out. Why? Because I was ready, right? But I had to do that, otherwise I would eat into tissue. Now, I'm glad I had my training partners to say, rack it there, because I would have just went to failure anyway, because that's how I train. But if you're thinking about, you want to build as much muscle as you can, whether you're a guy or a girl, you've got a show, a holiday, whatever it is, like, go on that holiday, on that show, knowing that you fucking couldn't have done anything else, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the, like, biggest adaptive response that you can possibly elicit. That's only going to come by giving it fucking beans. Plug.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
I think it's important to, like, be okay with taking yourself where it hurts, because taking yourself to failure hurts. Like, it's not easy, and it takes a lot of mind kind of go again. So it's about, I guess it ties into that question before about doing workout. It's about being so present in that one moment and so kind of in tune with your body and that mind muscle connection that you can just solely focus on taking yourself to, as you might hear it be called, like a really dark place, and be ready to just feel like, if you're doing a drop set on leg extensions, that your muscles literally going to ping off the bone, and you need to be ready to do that. And I suppose that's a lot of, it takes time, I think, to build up. If you don't enjoy training, getting into that type of thing and having somewhere there to take you to failure, because a lot of times I hit PBs when I train with someone else because they push me to go that extra bit, or having them there just, like, gets me really excited. So I push myself harder, and the next time around I look at my logbook and it's like, oh shit, now I need to beat that. So it kind of keeps that bar going.
Next question.
Is it your question or mine?
I think, Ali.
Failure at the point where proper form is lost. Okay, question. Someone has said, is failure at the point where proper form is lost? Yeah, it's mechanical failure, right? What we're trying to achieve, muscular failure, want the muscle to fail. If you're starting to mechanically break down and you always do that, you'll get diminishing returns and you'll get injured very, very quickly. Why? I've done it lots of times.
Same.
Right? Ali, next one.
The next one. So this question, I quite like this, but it's one of those where the answer could kind of be anything, but it was, do you think it's possible to train for an elite physique while playing a semi-pro sport or higher? Now, the reason that's quite a hard thing to answer is it depends what you determine as an elite physique. So I'm sure myself, Vaughn and Clara are going to think that's probably a little bit further ahead than some other people. It depends. So if you look at it this way, and I'll tell you who you are. So you play football. Myself and Vaughn are not going to be able to play football. So I used to play football at a pretty high standard. I used to play semi-professional. I can't move like I used to because my goal at the moment is to be as big as possible. So if your goal with an elite physique is to be absolutely shredded, but you might not have copious amounts of muscle mass, is it possible to still play semi-pro football or sport? Yes, but the problem you'd have is this. If you've ever seen a video of any of us speaking on contest prep or when you're super lean, that's for anyone in here who's been super lean. Yeah, it's a struggle to even pick up your pen to write in your logbook.
Yeah.
So are you going to be able to get on the football pitch or play basketball? Probably not. So you have to look at how, for you to perform at a high level of sports is a different thing. Hence why if you look at a lot of football players, they're pretty skinny, but when you see them with their tops off, a lot of them don't have abs. They don't need to be lean. So they're two different things.
Yeah.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yep.
So I used to horse ride at quite a high level, and in my second year of competing in bodybuilding, I did an event, and oh my god, it was so difficult. When I got to the end phase, the cross country phase, I felt absolutely gone. And you have to be so alert when you're riding cross country on a horse.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like huge, weighs nearly a ton, so it does really affect your cognitive function as well.
Yeah.
To be fair, from a competing point of view, so my client who's not in here, but my client Chloe, used to train horses, jacked abductors. So
yeah, yeah. But you can't get your riding boots on very well. They won't go over my calves now. But my legs look, my quads are so big, my legs just look like chunks. I don't look nice on a horse anymore.
No, I agree with that. It's the balance between performance and aesthetics, and if you want, it's choosing what you're going to favor. So if you want to favor performance, then achieving an elite physique, i.e. getting to absolute shredded condition, is probably going to massively impact your performance. It would affect your performance regardless of, even if you've got a freaking office job, probably it will just make you function slower. So it's finding the balance.
Before I go into the next question, many of you will know I used to play basketball. Well, you might not know. If you didn't, I played at a national level. I went to America to try and get a scholarship. And when I came back, I still tried to play. But what I found was, like, as a bodybuilder, the heavier you get, gravity pulls you back down when you jump, right? And I wasn't as quick. But what I also found was my knees couldn't take the heavy weight plus the impact of basketball. I had to give up, right? But I chose bodybuilding. So yeah, I think that, in all honesty, bodybuilding is a sport, so treat it like that. That's how I approach it. Right now, I'm just going to move on to the next one. That it's kind of like a very broad one, but it is quite applicable. It says, how can females optimize muscle growth through a bulk? So it does still relate to training, and I'll try and keep it around that way. Now, the thing with females is you guys can't add as much weight as us guys. Hey, the world's unfair, right? I've added 30 pounds in 3 weeks. If a female done that, the off-season over, they're dieting again, right? But if we spoke about optimizing a bulk for a female, if we looked at like training specifically, how would training be different for a female? Well, if you didn't know, females, you guys recover much quicker than us, right? I said to, was it Clara the other day, I said, I'm an assisted bodybuilder. She recovers quicker than me, right? She can train again sooner than I can. Got to take advantage of that, right? But as a coach, you've got to be smart with your programming. So if you speak about optimizing muscle growth, or what if females want to grow? All of them want to grow their bum, right? And they want their legs to be tighter. They want their hamstrings to sit higher. Maybe some of them want jacked quads. Not all of them, right? So you've got to think, right, well, how much are we going to program in glutes? Well, to get a response from them, at least 2 to 3 times a week. I would more favour the 3. 2 full days, where one's maybe more quad focused, tag glutes. And not, if you don't know what tag means, I'll explain in a minute. Another one, glutes and hammies, tag quads. And then on a third day, maybe they do just 2 exercises, right? Okay. So by tag, I mean that, let's say if you have a quad focused leg day, maybe I do 3 sets of glutes at the end of it. Or maybe I have a glute and hamstring focused day and I do 3 sets of quads at the end of it. Personally, for my girls, they'll do more than
delts.
Yeah, well, Ali, give me a fucking minute, please, to answer the question. Right? Now, for speaking about lower body, though, I'll always put in at least 6 sets of glutes and hams on each lower day. Don't care if it's a quad day or whatever, that's going in there, because it's what females want to bring up. And across the working week, they're probably going to be able to handle almost about 15 to 20 sets easily, if not more, 20 to 25, in their glutes and hams. Without a shadow of a doubt, can progress. Now, Ali made a good point. Delts. Okay, the lateral delt, sorry. Everyone calls it medial delt. Pisses me off. It's lateral delt. I even get mixed up. Lateral delt, to get response, you're going to need at least hit that 3 times across the week. Right? You do it once. And if you're wondering what lateral delt is, have a look at how many times you're just moving your arm out to the side. Right? Because guarantee a lot of your training is just anterior delt and you're just pressing. right? If you're a female that's doing chest work, why the fuck are you doing chest work unless you're a figure girl, right? If you're going on holidays, you want to look sick, you want to have a pair of tits unless you've got a boob job, right? So you don't necessarily need to work a lot of chest. Maybe you're going to work at 3 sets across the week, but lateral delts, I would do at least 14 to 15 sets across the week. Spread across your week. And that's just came not through like research, it's through application. I've just had a lot of girls I've programmed for that I've managed to figure out, right, well, when I give her about between 13 and 15 sets for that little muscle, it fucking grows, right? In regards to programming, optimizing muscle growth, I would always give a female a full upper day. It's my preference, my opinion. My girls and guys train 5 times a week. Girls will go lower. They'll tag delts. You all know what tag means now, right? They'll go upper, which are full upper, which might be more of like a push-based session with tagging on back. Off, lower again, full upper. And then the 5th day, full body. Yeah. So really, in regards to frequency, I mean, we talk about hypertrophy or muscle growth. How can, like, we talk about volume being the main driver, but frequency is a huge driver as well. How many times we can hit that tissue and recover from it. As a female, your recovery capabilities are higher because you've got higher lactate threshold clearing capacity, and just in general, estrogen is anti-catabolic, right? It doesn't allow breakdown, whereas us guys, we don't have much estrogen, unless you're on gear, right? But in general, you got to train more frequently. So, Ali and Clara, anything to
add? The other thing with that, just to tie it back to one of the statements we made earlier, but it's the same. So obviously we were speaking about failure and stuff, but this is entirely why. And if anyone in here doesn't do this, don't worry, I'm not saying anything bad about you. But if you don't get coached by one of us or you don't do this, this is why like logbooks are so essential, everything like that. Because so my client Scott is in here, his face isn't up, but every like 8 weeks he sends me a spreadsheet of all his, and he puts like little notes in, so I don't have to read it all. But I can literally see from looking at the photos in the spreadsheets where needs more volume just by bringing it up. So some, especially with females, so Vaughn was just saying that, like some of my girls that prepped last year, the volume they can take is crazy compared with like what me and Vaughn could. So I think a lot of the but, and here's the big but, a lot of the time it's wasted volume. So you need to still make sure, doesn't matter if you're doing an abductor or you're doing a hack squat, it has to be a failure. Because if it's not, it's just, and how many people do you see in the gym? You'll see it all the time. How many people do you see doing bicep curls every day? They've got tiny arms. It's because there's no application, no ability to progress. Well, Vaughn does them every day, his arms just don't grow. But but you need to make sure that, yes, females can handle more volume, but it has to be quality.
Yeah.
Clara, where are you there?
Yeah. No, I was just going to say it's same thing with the arms and with volume. It's just about using every set and using it, like taking it like it's your last set ever, even though there might be days where you can't be bothered. You just still need to have that mindset of, I need to make the set work and I need to be focused on my work and I need to be thinking about the muscle that I'm working in this set, because otherwise it's so easy to move weight from A to B. And then you think, oh yeah, smash it, progress and whatever. But like, it's so easy to, with a lat raise, for example, to just swing the weight about and not actually feel anything in the lateral delt that you're trying to actually contract. But nothing else that I think you covered it in depth.
Yeah, that's sweet.
It's your turn, Clara.
Yeah, I don't have any more specific questions to training.
Right. Okay. I got some, Ali, unless you want to go.
So, if anyone was bored of Vaughn speaking before, sorry, because this one is going to go to him. So this was a really good question, but it's technical, so I will also explain it. So, can you explain what a resistance profile is and how you can adapt it? Now, if you don't know what a resistance profile is, a strength profile is your muscle,
right? So
movement of the muscle.
Think of us like we have strength. A machine doesn't have strength, right? So we don't have resistance. A machine has resistance. So the word resistance profile, I'll try to say it in the most layman's term, can be the difference, variance of force throughout a movement. And looking at the mechanics of, okay, where does that say, perhaps, if we have an axis, right, and we have a load here, like a pendulum, and it's moving like this, okay, at what point is that weight quite close to this axis of rotation? At what point is it far away? You're probably thinking, well, why the hell does that matter? Well, it'll matter because when you go into it, it'll be heavier and lighter at different points, right? So in layman's terms, again, I'm going to try and say this. Axis of rotation, moment arm, okay? Right? To this load, effectively is what we'll call it. So when this load, this moment arm gets closer to this axis of rotation, it's lighter, right? Because the distance, the lever, isn't as far away. So you jump in said pendulum, right? You come down. What happens to the load? How does the move feel as you get closer? 10 points to Gryffindor if you guess, not Ali or Clara. It gets lighter, it gets easier, right? So we're jumped in this pendulum. This is the axis of rotation. This is the load. It's getting closer. It's getting closer. So it gets easier. Now, in the back of your mind, you go, fucking yes, this is getting easier. Brilliant, right? But what happens when you push back up?
It gets heavier again.
It gets,
it gets heavier again.
Away.
It hits you.
Further away, right? So it hits you like a fucking ton of bricks about here at the furthest away point, right, from where that load is against the axis of rotation. Now, I think, Ali, you elaborated on how you can manipulate stuff.
Yeah, manipulate, yeah.
Right. Now, I'm not going to use the pendulum. That was a good example to show you how it can get really hard. Now, if we were to take, everybody knows what hack squat is, right? Just nod. Yeah, everyone, you know hack squat. Cool. Right. Now, if we were to consider the strength that we have, right? Muscle, like a muscle belly, right? That's a muscle belly, right? That's it short, that's it long. At any point, any given muscle will have different levels of strength, right? So when we're on the hack squat, what muscle are we trying to work?
10.7.
What one of you guys answer?
Quads, right?
Yeah.
Now, if we consider the quad itself, right, and we speak about this contractile range, if you're all sitting there right now, right, you're sitting there right now, just go straight in your leg, right? Point your toe up towards the sky, right? If you were doing a leg extension, that would be your weakest point of the quad in regards to the amount of force it can produce. Now, it's weak at that point. Where else is it weak? Have a think about it. If it's weak where it's short, take a random guess where it's weak. Where it's long, right? So at extremities, muscles are weak. So if we're at the bottom of a hack squat, we know that the quad's long. We've got like, our knees are bending, our like fucking knees are up to our ears almost, right? If you've got good mobility. But we're weak there. Where's a hack squat really heavy?
In the middle.
No, at the bottom.
Yeah.
Bottom.
That's why you.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
That's why we banned it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So, exactly. How can we manipulate that to match the resistance profile machine versus the strength curve of the quad? Well, we put a band on it, so it's a little bit lighter. So at the bottom, the load isn't quite as heavy. We don't necessarily elicit too much fatigue. We can't produce as much force there, but we manipulate it in a way so when we get in the mid-range, where we just said the muscle's strong, we just get hit with a load.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Arguably, what you could say, right? People took the piss out of me 4 years ago for doing this, but you put a band on, you get really good at initiation and feel and contraction out at the bottom, like we've spoken about. So you've got that initiation where you're weak, which is good. You want to get strong there. You want to initiate. Then when you come to that mid-range, you want more of an overload. If you didn't have the band, you could argue you would not be stimulating like that mid-range enough to elicit an optimal adaptive response, right? So it's why you'll see us do reverse banded shit. And then eventually, now I don't do it. Why? Because I'm pretty strong at the bottom now. But only because I've spent years going there. The thing is, how often will you see someone in the gym do a half-rep hack squat, right, and never ever go to where they're weak? Well, if they never go to where they're weak, they're never going to grow optimally. But the people you see with the sickest quads probably go ass to grass on a lot of shit. So that was an elaborated answer that I went off on a bit of a tangent about. Ali, does that answer the question?
Yeah, it's good, mate. It's good.
Right.
But another way to think. Well, actually, doesn't matter. Sam, you're having to do 10 burpees because you should know that, mate. Because you've done a muscle mentors, muscle mentors course. So
Chloe should know that as well.
I do know that. But the thing is, with all this, it can get. One thing I'll say is that it can get too complicated, and actually, what we take from these courses, like, you don't necessarily need to use for the general pop client.
No.
Or try even get my top girls doing stuff. They're like, well, what the fuck are you on about? And I'm like, don't worry about it, just do it because. But it does go a bit detailed, doesn't it? Like, I'm not gonna lie, like, Callum's given me some stuff before and I've just turned around to him and said, mate, no, like, the setup, everything is just annoying. Daisy chains, no, just no.
Yeah.
Like, it's because I want to get in and train. So I think some of it can apply. It's good.
If you don't know what a daisy chain is, it's this. But yeah, I actually do agree with you because, for example, someone like me, I've got real issues with my right shoulder, so a lot of pressing's pretty much a no-go. As soon as I reverse band it, it helps me in that like the area where I'm super weak. But you don't need to reverse band everything and come up with like over elaborate stuff because I said it earlier, the basics work. Yeah. Nobody gets in crazy shape without doing the basics and getting very strong at them. Yeah. That was a good answer from Bonto.
Yeah, I'm just going to add in there, like, I totally agree with you, Chloe, in terms of, like, the complication of it and how sometimes you just don't need to explain it in that much depth. And, like, some people love to geek out on the mechanics of it, but other people just want to know kind of how it works. And one of the things that Vaughn first explained to me when, like, we programmed the banded stuff, especially for, like, a Smith machine, I totally felt how I was so much better able to focus on contracting my muscles throughout the whole range, especially when you get to the bottom. Because I used to always like barbell squat when I first started going to the gym, no clue what I was doing, but you'd fail at the bottom, right? And, you know, I was more trying to focus on keeping the bar stable, making sure I'm not falling flat on my face, like what the hell am I doing? Whereas when you band it, because the weight drops off at the bottom by a little bit, you can just focus on squeezing the glutes so much more. And I find that when I use that with my clients, even, you know, the first few times, if they're completely new to the gym and we just like put them under the Smith machine with the bands, a lot of them are terrified of going under it. But as soon as they feel that drop off, they're like, oh yeah, I get it. I can squeeze my glutes. Oh yeah, fuck, that really hurts. And then they come out and they get it. They understand it. So I guess it's like knowing the mechanics, if you want to geek out on it in case someone asks you, is important, but equally understanding that, you know, for general, well, for any client really, just knowing that they can squeeze their glutes much better at their weakest point, and that in their strongest point they'll just get the whole load whacking them across the jaw. That's all they really need.
And then being able to explain why they may feel it more in their, well, a barbell squat more in their quads or more in their glutes. You can then explain that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, next question.
Yeah. Next question. It was supposed to be back to me, but I just.
Oh yeah, but you answered. So I suppose this one's, again, quite a good question. How to train and work on imbalances. So there's two things with this. If you are a competitor, it will matter. But the other thing I would say is that imbalances you think are there are far more apparent to you than they will be to anyone else. So myself and Vaughn both have this. One of our legs is bigger than the other. But with an untrained eye, see that? No. If it's an imbalance in terms of you really need to train it, pretty simple really. So you could do, like say it was a lat movement, for example, you could do single arm rather than both. If you really need to bring up one side to the other, so say perhaps you've had an injury prior, the easiest way is so say for example you've had a previous leg injury, you've not been able to train on one side, you're going to failure with the weaker side. So you see this a lot, like say you had programmed a dumbbell row and on the weaker side, the person fails at 8, but on the stronger side, they fail at 14. Well, if you're doing that consistently every week on every movement, the imbalance is just going to go the other way. So it's about training that way. Imbalances can just be natural though. Remember, as people, your body isn't just like, not every one of us has the same shape. So that's because like, it will happen a lot. So it's just about training where needs trained really. You will also get, to be honest, if you just get strong at movements. So like a hack squat, you're working both legs. Vaughn's used it in the last. You're working both legs, but if you get ruthlessly strong at it, both legs will still grow. So you should be fine there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people get concerned, sorry for butting in there, about imbalances if they choose to compete or something like that. And a lot of times it's just about having the right posing coach that can also help you tweak the poses to help you showcase it. Because I know that when I pose, I need to do something different with one arm than I do with the other, because I do have that imbalance in my lats. But I just know that from recording myself, from having my own posing coach too, to point that out and then sort of tweak and adjust it. So, you know, I know that I've got one lat that's stronger than the other. So I do what Ali said. I start training on my weaker side, match the stronger side to that. But then when I am posing, I take that into account and I can sort of tweak the way that I do my poses or favor some poses over others to make my shape look better. But that's just specific to bodybuilding and posing.
I know exactly what Vaughn's going to say here. Sorry, mate. If you look at Vaughn's front shot, by the way, Vaughn's got amazing quads. Look at his front shot on every photo. There's a reason one leg's in front.
The majority of us come from a sporting background, right? And it's why we kind of got into the gym and bodybuilding. For me, it was basketball. Now, in basketball, you're allowed to take 2 steps before you jump, and you always usually jump off the stronger leg, right? Well, not necessarily, sorry. You would jump off your weaker leg, but use your strong hand, my right hand. So over time, I would jump off my left leg all the time. Produce force. Guess what quad's bigger? My left, right? So when I pose on stage, what leg do I put forward and what leg do I hide?
Yeah, exactly.
Left one forward, so people go, holy shit, because they're not looking at the right one. They just see the big one and go, fuck, he's got big quads. Because then they're too busy assessing everything else. But that's more a competitive standpoint. Now, I'm just going to move it on, just so we're covering everything. I got a question I think it's really relatable to the situation right now, and you guys there's 22 people, and there's 19 of you all get a chance to see this. Someone asked us how we are programming in this lockdown scenario. And the great thing about Zoom is you can share your screen. All right? So I'm going to show you exactly like what a template looks like. You might have to all I know that all the thumbnails are quite small, but you should be able to see my screen now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Right, so I just labeled this female program template because I saw the question. Now, what we've done, as you can see, A1, B1, B2, lots of supersets, right? Lots of stuff that is together. And again, usually we program in like 2 working sets. You're seeing a lot of 3 right now. Why? Because we're increasing volume because we don't have the mechanical load, because volume is a driver of hypertrophy, right? Now, again, for us, we'll always focus on tempo. Rest, we're not really fucking giving a shit about, right? Just make sure you take enough is usually the kind of thing that we'll say. And then we've got a little bit of notes to help you. We've also got the exercise tutorials online. So with those notes and the tutorials and the fact that we analyze videos, clients are night and day should know what they're doing. Now, we're going to have, if we've got a little bit of load, like let's say as a female, they say, Vaughn, I've got 15 to 20 kilo dumbbells. There's a reason I'm starting off with this Bulgarian split squat right there. Because I know that bilaterally, they're just not going to get enough load to cause a breakdown. But if they do a 2-1-2 tempo Bulgarian split squat with 15 and they do 12 reps, they're fucked. You know what I mean? So it acts as a loading movement. And then we think, right, what could we do? We've done glutes and hams. Then we move on to quads. So that was just an elaboration of why I've put that in. A lot of metabolic work, you know, like banded stuff, as many reps in a minute, hold for a minute. So for females, lower and then upper. I'm sure this is like the one I made up for you, Clara, and I've just changed it and said put female.
Yeah, it looks very, very recognizable. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks from this one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for females, again, you know, you guys can train frequently. So going upper, lower, off is exactly what I've done with all my girls. Some of them have got loads of equipment, so I've not, right? We've went 3 days or whatnot. But for the most part, again, they don't have a lot of load to do upper body, right? So again, we've put in lateral delts here. If you notice, there was lateral delts on lower one as well, if you were paying attention to that from what we said before. Again, we've got 30-second hold, banded stuff. We're putting in the loading movements a little bit further down. Why? So we're pre-exhausting the muscle itself so that when they do go into the loading movement, they're actually going to hit mechanical failure Three sets of chest. Why? None of my females want to grow big tits, big pecs anyway. And then there's a lot of sort of banded stuff for whatever, because again, a lot of females will be quite strong pulling motions wise, and again, they don't have a heavy dumbbells. You got a superset of stuff. So yeah, I just thought I would share that with you all, because again, you've kind of came on the webinar, you've got an opportunity to see how we program around this time frame, and then if that opens up any questions about, oh, why did you do that, then if we have time at the end, we can add to that. So Clary Allah.
You've done that before.
Nah, I think that's I've got no input on that. Sweet.
No, neither do I. It's just about, I think the specifications to each person just depends exactly on what kit they've got. So if we're programming for someone right now, for an existing client or someone who comes on the lockdown program, it will just be about asking them in detail, like, what kit do you have, kind of what kind of surfaces do you have to attach things to, and basing the program around that, and just seeing how much time they've also got to train, but pretty much nothing else to add. It's
and reverting back to what I said earlier, so yes, I'm aware that you're not picking up some heavy dumbbells, and everyone wants to do that because you get a sense of accomplishment, but would you rather come at the end of this and you've not either held or improved your physique? So I'm relatively strong, not as strong as the big man, but I'm strong enough. And training at home, I've got a couple of dumbbells, but not enough load for me. But I'm still going to program a way that I can do everything I can. So am I still going to hit failure? Yes. Is it going to be in a longer period? So I might have to take some sets to a really high level, especially for legs. It's got to be done. That's the easiest way to think about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Next question.
I've been doing the talking here, so what I'm going to say is, Ali, do you have any other questions left? Because what I could do, I've showed you guys a female template. We do have a male one if you want to see it. I'm looking for either like a thumbs up or a yes from anyone.
Yeah, do it, mate.
Right, okay, cool. Give me 2 seconds. Right, so males, for the most part, and I don't know why, all my male clients seem to have more load. They've got heavier dumbbells, they've went and got barbells, they've laid down the money to do that, right? So with a lot of them, I've just given them lower push-pull split. And what I've had to say to them is, I understand that you're probably not at capacity, so I'm going to run you 3 days on, 1 day off. I would usually never do that. But what I'll do is I'll implement 2 full days off every 2 weeks, right? And again, you're thinking, well, I could see why you've programmed in the Bulgarian split squat first, similar to the females. They don't have a lot of load. They've got some load, but not enough to cause like what we're looking for. Push day, pull day, I'll go back to the top. So very similar sort of scenario to the females. Right now, this is again a template, and we individualize it to what people have. So I've got guys in there that B1, that's a barbell squat. Because they're like, Vaughn, I've got 180 kilos of load, I can load up. So they don't do supersets. But some guys are like, Vaughn, I've only got 2 24 kilo dumbbells, I've got a barbell, I've got 60 kilos and that's it. They got a foam roller. Well, again, we can absolutely hammer the fucking quads, glutes, hammies, everything like that with a similar program. But the difference is, can they go again in 2 days as a male? Nah, they just can't, right? They can't recover from it. Usually, and this is not a sexist thing, usually because guys are stronger, right? And they'll elicit more muscle damage. But we will break down more than females will, because you guys have estrogen, you're anti-catabolic, right? Guys, we got a push day for guys, because guys want to grow their chest, want to get big tits, right? Not often females want to grow their pecs, right? Again, figure girls, maybe a different story. But again, lots of anterior, lateral delt work, and a little bit of tricep work. So pull day, again, I'll always put in a barbell RDL or pause RDL on a pull day. I don't personally do that because of how my lower back is right now, the pumps I'm getting. But always good to chuck it in there just for density work, for tagging on. You could effectively say tagging on glutes and hams. And then just working with what you got. Like, people don't have a lat pull down, so we put in a dumbbell pull over. People don't have like D-ring handles. Well, some people do. A lot of them don't. So we're putting in banded pull downs or whatever. So that's how we program for guys, if you are wondering. Sorry, Ali, you have any questions to run?
Nah, I think programming at this moment in time, if you're doing it yourself, it should be easier because realistically speaking, if you want results and you don't know about programming, you probably shouldn't be programming yourself. But because you've got limited equipment, it kind of gives you everything you need. So it's just about doing exactly what Vaughn says. I think
what I was going to ask is that obviously we've been on about an hour. I said I put this up on YouTube. There's 21 people in here who all have a phone, right? Could you all do me a favour? Take a photo of this.
Oh, let me pose, God.
Right? Take a photo of it, put it on your Instagram, and tag one of us, right?
I like that pose.
I was going to do that anyway.
Just as like that's your payment for the webinar. I would love if you could do that for us. Tag myself, Clara, Ali, tag all of us. We'll repost it, we'll share it. Could you, before you guys all go, what did you think?
Yeah, really good, mate. Really informative class. Yeah, it was good.
Would you be interested
Yeah, it was really
in these happening on a weekly or bi-weekly basis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd all tune in. Now, what we would say is, like, we got a lot of questions over the past few days about metabolism, reverse dieting, like some guys were asking about assistance. So, like, we got a lot of different questions, but what we wanted to do was keep it specific to, like, because it'd just be a free-for-all. If everyone was like, oh, I want to know about this, I want about that, then you wouldn't know what we're speaking about to come on the podcast and get value from it. Because there might be something in 2 weeks' time that you go, fuck that, I don't want to really learn about that. I'm not going to jump on it, right? So what we will say is that each week, or every second week, we'll put out a specific topic. And if you have a separate question that's not regarding that topic, we'll still answer it, but just ask us directly. Like, don't reply to the email saying, oh, hey, this is my question with the webinar when I couldn't answer half the questions today because I wanted to keep it all about training.
Yeah.
But, so if we've done it about training, then next week we can do about a different topic. If you have suggestions about what you would like to hear, please let one of us know. If you're working, with one of us, message us directly, or if you thought, oh wow, Vaughn's actually much better looking than Ali, so I'm going to message him instead.
To be fair, maybe because I've got a moustache.
A porn star moustache.
Also, can I just say, I know sometimes it can be hard when we're on for an hour because